Hey America, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. I have a very important, honest question that I want to pose to you, and I want to hear your honest response in the comment box below. In the case of Michael Brown, this tragic story of a 6'4" individual who happened to be African American, who was shot down by a cop who happened to be white, and has still not been formally investigated. There hasn't been a trial. There hasn't been any representation. There hasn't been really any evidence presented outside of the evidence of Michael Brown being a primary suspect in a very violent robbery of a liquor store just moments before the tragic event that led to his death, which according to the local police department didn't have anything to do, the robbery didn't have any connection to the reason why the Caucasian male police officer stopped Michael Brown. All we have and all we know are the violent images that have been blasted all across the mainstream media of Michael Brown violently pushing and shoving a store clerk and robbing that local business just moments before he was tragically shot. But back to the important question, the honest question. If Michael Brown happened to be white and the police officer, the cop that shot him, black, do you think that there would be riots and protests in the streets of Ferguson today? Again, let me ask that question again. If Michael Brown was a white kid and the police officer African American, black, do you think that there would be protests and riots in the streets of Ferguson today? And I would like you to think about that for a moment and honestly answer in the comment box below. And I'd like you to create a dialogue because I think it tells you something very important about America today. Obviously, I think that answer is pretty obvious. Of course not. Of course there wouldn't be protests in the streets. Of course there wouldn't be riots. Of course there wouldn't be looting of Ferguson if it was in reverse. If the races happened to be in reverse, the police officer happened to be black, and Michael Brown happened to be white. Nor do I think that Eric Fast and Furious Holder would have ordered a second autopsy if Michael Brown happened to be white. Perfect example of this would be in thinking of Andrew Breitbart, the late Andrew Breitbart, who died under great duress and much conspiracy, only got a single autopsy. He didn't get two. Remember, this was a guy who was going to bring about mounting evidence to incriminate the Obama administration. He didn't get a second autopsy ordered by Eric Holder. But in this case, Michael Brown does. And again, I go back to the question, America. If Michael Brown happened to be a white kid, a white man, a 6'4" individual, a very imposing figure who had just happened to violently rob a store clerk at a liquor store moments before he was tragically shot, and nobody's arguing that this event was a tragic occurrence, and the police officer happened to be black, would we still have Jesse Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton out in the streets race baiting in defense of this white kid? And again, it says something about America today, because I think in America today, what we actually have in actuality is reverse discrimination on a number of levels. And we're seeing this even at the executive branch with the President of the United States in the Trayvon Martin case, another tragedy, likening himself to Trayvon Martin before George Zimmerman was able to get a constitutional fair trial in a court of law, represented by attorney, and then decided by a group of his peers, jurors. Again, I only see the double standard in the case of African Americans being shot and not in the reverse scenario with Caucasians who are shot on a regular basis in America today. In fact, African American kids aren't the only ones dying. In fact, Caucasian kids dying. We have Latino kids dying in the inner cities. We have interracial kids dying in inner cities. We have people of all ages, sexes, races, religions, creeds, sexuality dying in the streets, especially in the inner city. I mean, take a look at Chicago, for example, where the President of the United States is from, as a case in point. But again, back to that very important question, folks. Do you think we would have riots, protests, looting in the streets of Ferguson if Michael Brown happened to be white? You all know the answer to that question. It is a stunning no. It is a stunning negative. And it says something about America today. it proves that what we have in America today is essentially, and in reality, reverse discrimination. And we have allowed this to go full circle, 360 degrees back to where we started. Coming from a president who ran on hope and change and an anti-war message in Iraq, by the way. I think America is actually more racist today, more violent, as is evident from the riots that we're seeing in the streets in Ferguson and essentially martial law being declared, and also 2 airstrikes by the President-in-Chief Barack Hussein Obama, who vowed to withdraw troops from Iraq just about 2 years ago and then went to go on and bomb Iraq just like George W. Bush. Things are worse in America today, not just in terms of racial divide, but reverse discrimination, in my opinion. I'd like to hear yours. Put it in the description box below, the comment box. I'm Christopher Green. Get it out everywhere, make it viral, and click the link below to support our sponsor.